Okay, today we're going to be looking at the topic of polynomial long division. This is for the A-level Year 1 course. I'm going to do 3 examples. 2 of them are going to be a cubic division, and then the final one we've got quartic. Then we're going to have a look at sketching some graphs from the divisions. So all I'm going to do is just crack on with the examples. There's not really any kind of theory I want to discuss about this to start with, so let's just crack on. So just like with any division, long division, we're going to put what we're dividing in the bus shelter, some people call it. So in this case, we are dividing this cubic to x cubed minus 6x squared plus 3x plus 10 by x plus 1. And the x plus 1 is going to go outside of the bus shelter, just like if it was a number. Okay, so we have this number divided by this number. This is now just an algebraic expression. That's exactly the same concept. So we're told in the question that x plus 1 is a factor, so we're expecting no remainder. If we get a remainder at the end, then we've done something wrong. So the first question we ask ourselves is, what do I need to times by x to get to x cubed? And the answer is x squared. So the answer to that will go up on the top line. Now what I'm going to do is just keep everything in columns. So everything here is going to be a cubic, a quadratic, a linear and a constant, just to keep things all neat. So it was x squared, so I'm going to write that on the top in the squared column. And now what I do is I take what I've just written on the top and I times it by what I'm dividing by, and I write that underneath, just like perhaps you would do for long division. So x plus 1 times x squared is going to be x cubed plus x squared. Okay, x times x squared is x cubed, 1 times x squared is x squared. I subtract them. X cubed minus x cubed is 0, and minus 6x squared minus x squared is minus 7x squared. I then bring down my 3x from here, and I repeat the process. So now I've got a quadratic left. What do I times by x to get to minus 7x squared? The answer would be minus 7x, so that's the one that goes up on top. I then take what I'm dividing by, multiply it by what I've just written up the top, and write it underneath. So x times minus 7x is minus 7x squared, and 1 times minus 7x is minus 7x. And again, I subtract the 2. Minus 7x squared subtract minus 7x squared is 0. And 3x minus minus 7x is plus 10x. Just be careful of your signs there. I'm subtracting a negative. Bring down the plus 10. And then finally, ask myself, what do I times by x to get to 10x? And the answer is going to be plus 10. Just use the last little bit then just to check to make sure that our answer up here is correct. X times 10 is 10x, and 1 times 10 is 10. And because x plus 1 is a factor of this cubic, I'm expecting no remainder. And if you subtract those 2 lines, there is indeed nothing left. Perfect. So what does that tell us? Well, just like if we had a number here, and we just divided it by this number, and this is our answer, then that means that this times this is equal to this. So we have essentially just factorised a cubic. So it means we can write x cubed minus 6x squared plus 3x plus 10 as x plus 1 times x squared minus 7x plus 10. From there we can just factorise the quadratic as perhaps we would do normally. That's going to be x plus 1. It's going to be an x there and an x there. They're both going to be negative, and we want a 5 and a 2. However you choose to factorise a quadratic, I'm assuming you know how to do that. So what we've done is we've taken this cubic and we've now written it as a product of factors. That allows us then to sketch it very quickly. Sketch the graph. So up here we want to sketch the graph of y equals this cubic. So draw a set of axes. It's a positive cubic because the coefficient of x cubed is positive. So it's going to start down here and end up here. Its roots are when either of these brackets are 0. So the value of x for this to be 0 is minus 1. So therefore it's going to cross minus 1 on the x-axis. For this bracket to be 0, x is 5. And for this bracket to be 0, x is 2. I said start low and end high, so it's going to come up from there, it's going to come down, and it's going to go up in that kind of cubic shape. And then just mark where it crosses the axes, so 5, 2, and minus 1. It doesn't need to be to scale, it's just a sketch. So this is absolutely adequate. And then finally, where does it cross my y-axis? Well, that is when x equals 0. So either plug in x equals 0 into here, in which case you'll get y is 10, or, even easier, go back to the original cubic. When x is 0, those three terms will disappear, and you're left with plus 10. So it crosses my y-axis at 10. Okay, and that is the answer. Okay, so another one, very similar. Sketch y equals x cubed minus 10x squared plus 27x minus 18, given that x minus 6 is a factor of the cubic. So I'm just going to go through this one a bit quicker. So again, I'm just going to write this under my bus shelter. I'm going to divide that by x minus 6. First question, what do I times by x to get to x cubed? The answer is x squared, so that goes up on top. And I now take what I just wrote on top and multiply it by what I'm dividing by. So I get x times x squared is x cubed, and minus 6 times x squared is minus 6x squared. Subtract the two. Minus 10x squared minus 6x squared is minus 4x squared. Again, just be really careful with these signs. It's very easy to make a sign error. Bring my 27x down and repeat the process. What do I times by x to get to minus 4x squared? And the answer is minus 4x, so that goes up on top. I now take what I'm dividing by, multiply it by what I've just written at the top. So I get minus 4x squared. I'm going to get plus 24x. Okay, minus 6 times minus 4 is positive 24. Again, just be careful of your signs. Minus 4x squared minus 4x squared is 0, and 27x minus 24x is plus 3x. Bring down my minus 18. And the last step then, what do I times by x to get to 3x? Well, that's plus 3. That times that is going to be 3x minus 18. Subtract the 2, no remainder, so that is a bit of reassurance that I've done it all correctly. Okay, so that means that then I can write y, instead of being equal to this cubic, I can now say is equal to this linear times this quadratic. So that's x minus 6 multiplied by x squared minus 4x plus 3. And then again, I can factorise the quadratic by whatever method you choose. Oops, that should be 6. In this case, it's going to be a minus 3 and a minus 1. And that allows me then to very quickly sketch my cubic curve. Again, just draw a set of axes, x-axis, y-axis. I'm going to have roots at positive 6, positive 3, and positive 1. Because those are the three x values that make y 0. It's going to cross my y-axis at minus 18. And we can see that from the constant term at the end of the expanded cubic. Positive cubic again, so it's going to start low and end high, so it's going to come up through there, it's going to go down through there, it's going to go up through there and shoot off to infinity, and it crosses there at minus 18. Don't forget to label where it crosses the axes, so 1, 3 and 6, and of course don't forget to label the x and y axis as well, and that is your sketch, job done. Okay, one final example, a little bit trickier. This time we've got a quartic. We're going to divide it by a quadratic. It's exactly the same process. And also notice that this time the coefficient of the highest power is not 1, but that doesn't change anything. The process is the same. So I'm going to divide this quartic, which is 6x to the 4 plus 11x cubed minus 86x squared plus 55x plus 50, and I'm going to divide it by this quadratic, 2x squared plus 11x plus 5, and just by the way the question is worded, you can safely assume that this is indeed a factor of this quartic. because it says divide this quartic by the quadratic 2x squared plus 11x plus 5, and then it says to hence sketch this quartic. Okay, so I'm expecting this to be a factor, so that I can write it as a product of two quadratics, and then I can factorise the quadratics. So, first question I ask myself, what do I times by 2x squared to get to 6x to the 4? And the answer is 3x squared. So again, just keeping everything in columns, quadratic columns over here. So I'm going to write my quadratic term up in the quadratic column. I now take what I've just written at the top, and I'm going to multiply it by what I'm dividing by. So 2x squared times 3x squared is 6x to the 4. 11x times 3x squared is 33x cubed. And I'm going to get a plus 15x squared. And I subtract those two. So 6x to the 4 minus 6x to the 4 is 0. 11x cubed plus 33x cubed, that's going to be minus 22x cubed. That's going to be minus 101x squared. And I'll bring down my plus 55x now. And now I'll repeat the process again. What do I times by 2x squared to get to minus 22x cubed? And the answer is minus 11x. So that goes up there. Now I multiply this by what I've just written. So that's going to be 2x squared times minus 11x squared is minus 22x cubed. Minus 121x squared. Minus 55x. And I subtract. So that goes to 0. Subtracting a negative is adding, so that's going to be plus 20x squared. Okay, minus 101 plus 121 is 20. And again, I'm subtracting a negative, so that's going to be plus, in this case, 110. Finally, bring down my plus 50. Ask myself, what do I times by 2x squared to get to 20x squared? Well, it's going to be positive 10. And I finally multiply these three by the 10 to make sure there is no remainder and that I've done everything right. 11x times 10 is 110x. And 5 times 10 is 50. Subtract, and we can see that indeed those three terms disappear and I'm left with nothing. Perfect. So this quartic then can be written as a product of this quadratic and this quadratic. So that allows me then to say that the curve that I want to sketch can be written as 2x squared plus 11x plus 5 and 3x squared minus 11x plus 10. And then I can factorise each of those. So it's going to be 2x. It's got to be a 5 and a 1. I want 10 plus 1 makes 11. Okay, so that's that quadratic factorised. And then this one, it's got to be a 3x and an x. And they're both going to be negative this time. 5 and a 2, so that's going to give me minus 6 minus 5 is minus 11. Okay, good. So there's my product of linear factors then. Now I can easily see where my roots are. So this is going to yield a root of x equals minus a half, because that's the value of x that makes that bracket 0. This is going to yield a root of x equals minus 5. This is going to yield a root of 5/3, and this is going to yield a root of 2. So I've got two negatives and two positives. I'm going to do my sketch. I'm going to have a root over here at minus 5, a root over here at minus a half, a root over here at 5/3, and a root over here at 2. Again, you don't need to be accurate with sketches, it's just to get the general gist of the shape of the curve. Okay, positive quartic. I know it's positive because the coefficient of x to the 4 is a positive number. So it's going to start high and end high. It's going to be some kind of wobbly W shape. And it's going to cross my vertical axis at 50. And I can see that again from the original quartic. When x is 0, all of those terms disappear and I'm left with the plus 50. Which is good, because if I look at my points, it's got to go through the y-axis at a positive point. And then it's going to do something like that. Label the points, so 2, 5/3, minus a half, minus 5, and make sure you label where it crosses the y-axis, which we said was 50. And there's my sketch of my quartic. Job done. Thank you for watching. Next video we're going to have a look at the factor theorem.